So next we'll be going into our next two presentations before we part for the day. And I'd love to welcome our third guest. So it's Edie Shaw-Ewald, and Edie's a registered dietitian who's worked in many community and clinical roles throughout her career. Edie currently works as a dietitian at the Tantallon Atlantic Superstore. Working in her community, she provides nutrition supports in a wide range of ways. So Edie's here to share with us about nutrition and its impacts on supporting chronic health conditions. So please join me in inviting Edie up to the stage to talk about nutrition. So this is a little quicker. This is the next. If you need backwards here, and then this is a pointer. All right, and then the podium's all yours.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you so much for having me here today. When Nick initially asked me, I thought it was going to be maybe 25 or 30 people, so I'm a little bit surprised. He told me, I think yesterday, that it was going to be 200. So that was a bit of a surprise. So I'm a little bit nervous, but that's okay. But we are talking about my favorite subject, which is food and nutrition. And I can't remember not being interested in food and nutrition. So I just feel like it adds or can take away from our life experiences, but it is something that we largely have control over. And I think that goes along with the theme of this conference being Take Charge of Arthritis. So this is called Take Charge with Food. So I want to know how many of you believe that you can take charge with food. All right, that is wonderful, so I don't have to convince you. And also, how many of you love food? Great. Does anyone want to put up their hand if they have a complicated relationship with food, sort of a love-hate thing? And that is something that we deal with these days because there's so much nutrition misinformation and confusion that sometimes I see people that say to me, I don't know what to eat. So I think that's sad. This is a picture of my personal trainer. Her name is Bella. And she's been my personal trainer for over 11 years. I haven't joined a gym since we got her. And so daily walking and jogging are a part of my everyday routine, largely because of her. If I don't take her out twice a day, she'll start stamping her feet. So I know you did have a little discussion with a physiotherapist. I don't know if they mentioned to get a dog, but I think you should if you don't have one. So with reference to diet, though, what I want to say here, what I want to impress upon you is that it needs to be something that you enjoy, but as healthy as possible, the healthiest diet that you can enjoy, not endure. A lot of people think when they go to see a dietitian or a dietitian is going to give a talk that she's going to have a list of foods to avoid. And I just think that makes life unpleasant and it makes our relationship with food complicated. So you want to weigh the pros and cons and come to a point where you have the healthiest diet that you can sustain for long term and enjoy. And as far as exercise for me, Bella has taken me places where I never would have gone without a dog and has introduced me to people that I never would have met without a dog. And so that is the type of exercise that I can enjoy every day. So I want you to think about the same thing with your diet. We're going to be talking about the anti-inflammatory plate today. And we're going to go through different sections on that plate and talk about an action that you can take So I see that you have notepads and pens. And during this talk, I would like you to really think about what action can I take today to make a change in my diet. And write that down. And not 10 not 10 things, but perhaps 1 or 2 really doable actions. We're also going to talk about some food superstars. I work at the superstore, so calling it superstars. And we're going to talk about those as far as being anti-inflammatory. And then at the end of each food group that we're going through, we're going to talk about concerns or questions. And so we're going to wait till the end for questions, but if you have any questions that come up during that food group, please write them down and we will discuss them. Okay. So like I said, it's really not a diet that you should endure. It's a lifestyle, a way of eating. Studies suggest that what we eat really can impact our joints and that certain foods can help alleviate pain and stiffness. And of course, pain is a great motivator. So once you try to make some changes, you might find that that is a real motivation in itself to do certain things with your diet. So as a dietitian, my role is to empower people to use diet and lifestyle to maintain or attain health. But I'm not suggesting a perfect diet. It has to be one that you enjoy, and there's no one size fits all. Unfortunately, the diet of the Western world, the North American diet, or probably you've heard the standard American diet, which is also called SAD, have you heard that before? Standard American diet? Unfortunately, that is the perfect storm for inflammation. So when we look at the last 40 years or so, I used to say 20 years, and recently I thought I better change that to 40 years, because time's going by quickly. It is refined carbohydrates, so highly processed foods, oils and fats that are really high in omega-6. It's a low omega-3 intake and a low fiber intake. So that's kind of the summary or a profile of the standard American diet that's very easy for us to eat. So it takes a little extra effort to eat a healthier diet these days. Would you agree, or? Okay. So this is the healthy plate I was talking about, and it's not perfect here. I wanted to change a little bit, but my techie techniques are not up to par, but this is pretty good. So when we're talking about making changes, even small changes, we will see results in more energy level, possibly less joint pain, maybe an increased mood. And so again, I want you to think about, as we go through these parts on the plate, what change are you going to make? And we're going to start with, of course, my favorite topic, vegetables. Does anyone know how many vegetables you should aim for? Oh, very good. Okay, yeah. 7 vegetables and fruit servings a day. That sounds like a lot, and it is. You have to really plan that into your diet. But a lot of plant foods, that's super, super important in this diet. So when we're looking at vegetables and fruits, aiming for about 5 vegetables a day, and it's best to get variety if you can, so different vegetables of different colors, and then 2 fruit a day. It could be, of course, you'll have variations on that. So the easiest way to think about this is to have at least half of your plate vegetables at lunch and dinner. Has anyone seen pictures of that? Half your plate, vegetables. So, and lots of color, because the color is an indicator of antioxidants in those vegetables. So when we think about purple beets or red beets and purple cabbage, green broccoli, green leafy greens, orange carrots, all those different vegetables give us different kinds of antioxidants. So could that be a goal for you? If you think about your lunch and dinner now, do you usually have half the plate of vegetables? Can anyone say that they do that right now? Or some people, it's not very common, but there are a handful of people. Would anyone consider having this as their goal? Is that something that would make a big difference? It would increase your fiber, increase your antioxidants, your anti-inflammatory compounds. So that might be one right there, so you might want to write that down. That might be a goal for you. And I always think, some people think, oh, vegetables can be boring, but maybe it's just a matter of picking up a new cookbook or going to a cooking class. There's cooking classes at Superstore and Sobeys. And just kidding, at Superstore and Sobeys and throughout the city. So maybe you just need to go to like a Mediterranean cooking class, something like that, to inspire you. You might want to try a new cooking method for vegetables. I know myself, I don't like steamed or boiled Brussels sprouts, but when they are roasted with some olive oil, it's like cheesecake to me. It's beautiful and creamy and sweet. So think about changing how you're preparing those vegetables, and you might find, wow, I love it this way. This is really, really yummy. You might want to sprinkle a little, the balsamic vinegars that we have access to now. Sprinkle a little of that on your vegetables. Makes a big difference. So boring is not good. We want to make these exciting. Now, we will talk about nightshades because I know that that has come up over and over again. And some people might find that if they do eliminate nightshades, there may be some improvement in their symptoms. And so certainly go ahead and do that. But there is not good evidence behind that, as looking at large population groups as far as eliminating nightshades. Does everyone know what the nightshade vegetables are? Okay, I don't want to bring up a problem if it doesn't exist. But the nightshades are peppers, eggplant, tomato. No, there's one more, potato. Now, I don't want everyone to start thinking, oh no, I can't have those, because they only find, it's very anecdotal. It's something that's come up and up again with arthritis and diet, and it's not been proven. So you can certainly try to eliminate them for a week or two and add one back in at a time and keep a food and symptom diary, but just know that it's not a proven diet treatment for arthritis. It seems to be due to the solanine in the, that's a compound that's in these nightshades. So, okay. Gonna change this. So fruit, nature's dessert, perhaps. So fruit is packed with antioxidants and fiber, and to have 2 to 3 fruit servings a day is a great idea. Maybe you don't eat a lot of fruit. Maybe you prefer, something like a sweeter, more of a cookie or something like that with tea or as an afternoon snack. You might want to have a goal of swapping out, a couple of cookies with a piece of fruit. and maybe some walnuts or something as a snack. Maybe that's a goal. Does anyone think that might be something that they would? Because you would be killing a bird. What is it? That's awful. We don't want to say that. You would be doing two positive things with the one swoop if you swapped out cookies and added in fruit for an afternoon snack. So one way of easily adding fruit in is to add berries to breakfast. It can be frozen berries because we don't have any fresh berries right now from local sources. But the frozen berries, like those big bags of naturally imperfect berries, have you seen those? The naturally imperfect line. It's like a no-name line that we have, and I really like the berry blend. It's got blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and it is a big bag. So, but adding berries are really a superstar when it comes to fruit and their antioxidant content. Here in Nova Scotia, we are very lucky to have wild blueberries because they are one of the highest sources of antioxidants. And you can't get wild blueberries everywhere, so we should be proud of that. Is anyone concerned about the sugar in fruit? No, that's good. We shouldn't be concerned unless you're eating 5 oranges and 3 or 4 bananas a day, but really, they're kind of self-limiting, aren't they? You can't eat that much. You can drink juice. You could drink enough, like a cup of juice has the equivalent of about 3 or 4 oranges in it. So that's not a great idea because it's not coming with the fiber in it. But to have whole fruit, it comes along with the fiber and the antioxidants. So that's the better choice. But as far as the natural sugar in fruit, we shouldn't have concerns about that. Right, yeah. So if you have diabetes, you do have a meal plan, like an eating plan, and of course, that's something because they do have, for most people, having fresh fruit or whole fruit is not an issue. If you have diabetes, and it's, you have to really tightly control it, then you want to probably have fruit at the end of a meal, not on its own, and not more than what's on your meal plan, which is probably 2 or 3 servings a day. So, okay, I got a lot to do here. Complex carbohydrates. Does anyone know what complex carbohydrates are as opposed to simple? You probably do understand complex carbohydrates. These are foods like whole grains. Complex carbohydrates can also be found in vegetables, but mostly when we think of carbs, we think of things like rice and barley, pastas, breads, muffins, crackers. So when we really look at the healthier choices of carbohydrates, we want to go for the ones that are whole grain, not the refined flour wheat product. Okay? Carbohydrates have gotten a really bad rap in the last few years, and there are a lot of diet trends going around which have certain places where they are appropriate. But I think that some carbohydrate is healthy in our diet. We just don't want it to be a main portion on our plate. So if we think about that healthy plate, it should only be about a quarter of that plate. So 1/2 cup servings of things like pasta, rice, small potato, small amount of bread. But the best choice, the superstar carbohydrates, are the brown rice, or if you try red rice that you can get now, quinoa, which you probably heard of, and the sweet potato. Those are the healthiest choices. The other choices that are more processed, like pasta and bread, those would be secondary choices. Does anyone have any questions around gluten and arthritis? We can talk about that during the question period too. Pardon?
Is there a relationship between
Pardon? They do find that there is a higher percentage of people with arthritis that do have celiac or gluten sensitivity. So that's something that you would want to talk to your doctor about because you can't eliminate gluten from your diet and then go for a test for celiac disease, because then the test will be inconclusive, it won't be reliable. So you do want to talk to your doctor about that. If you had a test that came back that you don't have celiac disease, but you're wondering if you have a gluten intolerance or sensitivity, then what you would have to do is take gluten out of your diet and see if your symptoms improve and keep a food and symptom diary. So, even the word gluten sounds terrible, but it really isn't as bad. It's a protein that's in carbohydrate foods like wheat, barley, and rye. So we don't want to get overly excited or worried about it. And but it's certainly something that you could explore further. But always, don't eliminate it, because it's very difficult to eliminate gluten from your diet. Don't eliminate it and then go to your doctor to ask if you need to be tested for celiac disease. Okay? Okay, complex carbohydrate fruit. Protein. Now, protein. Oh, I gotta keep going here. So proteins is super important in our diet. Most of us do get enough of it. Like, as far as the end of the day, we're getting enough. But one thing that a lot of people don't do is to spread it throughout the day. And especially when you're over 50, we are losing muscle mass. And muscle mass is very important for supporting our bones and our joints. So we want to retain muscle mass. When we think about protein, which is a real, it's obviously a builder, like a building blocks for our muscles, we want to spread it throughout the day. So we want to have some protein at breakfast, at lunch, and at dinner. Now, there are some studies that do show that protein that comes in the form of animal protein does have an inflammatory effect. So if you're not having meatless meals or fish as your protein several times a week, that might be a goal that you want to do. And I'm thinking, from talking to customers in the store, that a lot of people are not really familiar with like plant-based proteins. Does anyone here follow like a more meatless meal or vegetarian? Yeah, not very many of us here. So that would be a big goal to take on, but I think it's really exciting because plant-based proteins are delicious. It's an easy and economical way to cook. It doesn't mean that you can't have meat or poultry or pork. It just means that maybe 2 or 3 meals out of the week are meatless. Is anyone interested in having that as a goal? Oh, I haven't convinced too many people yet. I've got to pump that up a little bit more. It's easy to make a meal, and do you know what I'm talking about when we talk about plant proteins? Things like beans, lentils, tofu. Give tofu another chance. I know you all tried it in the 70s and you didn't like it. But really, there's a lot better recipes out there. And the soy protein is really healthy. So maybe it's a matter of picking up a new cookbook or looking at a meatless meal recipe source online, and you can get some really great recipes. So spread protein intake throughout the day, enjoy meatless meals more often, and have fish 2 or 3 times a week, and preferably the fatty fish. Now, maybe you don't like fish. So in that case, you should talk to your doctor about maybe taking an omega-3 supplement, which we will talk about more in a few minutes. Does anyone here not like fish? Yeah, it's not uncommon. Maybe you might want to try prepared a different way. I know I didn't like the way my mom made it. She used to poach it in milk, and I never liked that, but as we grow older, try it again. You might like it. So the superstar proteins, fatty fish, so trout, mackerel, herring, salmon, sardines, anchovies. I wish I liked anchovies and sardines because they're small, they're environmentally friendly fish because they turn over really quickly. They don't live very long. They populate really fast. But I don't like them, but I should try them again. Does anyone here like anchovies or sardines? Oh, you're so lucky, and they're so convenient. Now, I did try fresh anchovies last spring. My husband and I went to Italy for our 25th anniversary, and I thought, I'm going to try anchovies here, and they were absolutely delicious. But that's a long way to go to eat anchovies. So, but I am going to try them again. So fatty fish, beans and lentils. So beans like black beans and chickpeas and navy beans and kidney beans and adzuki beans, all those different kinds. We grow a lot of those in Nova Scotia, which is wonderful. Lentils. Did you know that Canada is the biggest producer of lentils in the world? Oh, somebody over there knew. Did everybody know that except for me recently? I just found that out about a year ago. Okay. I was shocked because as a population, we don't eat a lot of lentils. So a lot of them go to other countries. They are so quick and easy, and they're so delicious. They absorb the flavor, and they have a very earthy flavor themselves. So think about adding lentils to your diet. They're good for so many things. And then walnuts. Now, if you buy a big bag of walnuts, make sure you keep them in the fridge or the freezer, because you don't want to be eating, 2 cups of walnuts every day, but a handful, right? Now, keep them in the freezer. Does anyone know why? Yeah, everybody knows. So they do go rancid, and once you've had a walnut that's gone rancid, it does not, it tastes like anchovies, like canned anchovies, so it's not good. So I keep my walnuts in the freezer, and any kind of nuts and seeds like that if I buy them like in a large container. Pumpkin seeds are super healthy. They're also good for your immune system because they're high in zinc. So you might want to start having pumpkin seeds with your afternoon snack of your pear. Wouldn't that be nice? Or apple. A handful of pumpkin seeds. Pardon? Almonds, yes, definitely almonds as well. Now, one thing about these nuts, it's not a great idea to get them roasted and like honey flavored, or what else? There's all different kinds, chocolate covered. That sort of takes away from the positive parts of them, because if they're roasted, they're usually roasted in a very cheap oil that's high in omega-6s. And that's really not what we want. If we have too much omega-6 in our diet, it can be inflammatory. So you want to get raw and not salted for the most part. So raw, unsalted. Okay, Moving on to fats. So of course, the fatty fish also comes in here, and the nuts and seeds offer us healthy fats. So they're high in protein, but they're also high in fat. You want to have some fat with every meal. Fat helps us absorb nutrients, the fat-soluble vitamins. The superstar fats, like avocado, which is very available now. You can even get frozen chunks of avocado in the freezer section of Superstore. I haven't seen them in Sobeys. And what about flaxseed oil? Does anyone use ground flaxseed? Which is wonderful. Another thing to keep in your freezer, because it gets very rancid and fishy. So keep flax seeds and ground flaxseed in the freezer. In the fridge is okay too. I find it's fresher in the freezer. But flaxseed oil is very high in omega-3s. I think I had a little thing about how much. Here we go. Oh, yes. 2 tablespoons of flaxseed, ground flaxseed, contains 140% of the daily value of omega-3 fatty acids. Now, the daily value would be a little on the lower side because that's for the general population. If you're living with arthritis, you want to have a higher omega-3 fatty acid intake. So flaxseed oil, or even hemp seed oil, is something that you can use to make salad dressings. I would go for the flaxseed oil over the hemp seed, though. And then, of course, using olive oil when you can. And sometimes we use butter when we could actually use olive oil. So, drizzling over cooked vegetables, we might be putting butter on our like turnip or squash, but maybe consider drizzling olive oil over it instead, extra virgin olive oil. That'll be healthier. Okay. Herbs and spices. So because we are going to be reducing our processed food intake and eating more whole foods, we need to flavor them. Now, the processed food industry uses a lot of salt and sugar to flavor their food. And a lot of these foods, they taste very similar. But it's something that we're comfortable with, and people tend to like that flavor, I guess. So we're going to think about here jumping off and using more herbs and spices if you haven't used them before. And they are being shown to have anti-inflammatory properties, which is really exciting. So try to, maybe take a look inside your dried herb and spice drawer. And hopefully it's in a drawer because they should be kept in a dark place. If some of those have been there for over a year or 2 or 10, it's probably time to put them in the compost and go out and get yourself some really nice fresh herbs. Some people really like to go to the bulk barn. You can get the no-name herbs and spices. I think those jars are not really very economical, so you might, if you're replacing your whole spice drawer, you might want to think about, buying it in bulk. And then that way you won't have a lot left over in a year. They tend to lose their potency after about a year. So the superstars are cinnamon, garlic, ginger, turmeric, and pepper. Cinnamon, it has been shown to be an anti-inflammatory and also one that helps to regulate our blood sugars. So, and also, it gives you, if you use it in your foods, it tends to give people the feeling of having something sweet. Like we associate the taste of cinnamon with something sweet. So it may take the place on your oatmeal in the morning of some kind of a brown sugar or maple syrup, which I love, but we shouldn't have too much of it. So try sprinkling cinnamon on your oatmeal and maybe having more cinnamon in things like a squash soup or a sweet potato soup. Garlic. Are people using a lot of fresh garlic these days? Yeah, another antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. And actually this morning I was at the Hubbard's Barn Market. I don't know if any of you know about that market out down the South Shore. It's a beautiful market. I bought $25 worth of fresh garlic because I just love it. It's so good. So I have a big bag of garlic. It's also super easy to grow, right? You can grow it in a very small little spot. And so garlic, it's found that maybe it's the compound called diallyl sulfide. I'm going to throw those in every now and again so you think I'm really smart. That's in garlic that may limit cartilage-damaging enzymes. So just peeling the garlic and chopping it up. The interesting thing is after you chop it, let it sit for a few minutes before you heat it in any kind of oil. That gets the properties in that garlic. It tends to have there's some kind of a chemical effect going on there when it's chopped. I don't know what happens, but you're supposed to let it sit and then prepare your food with it a few minutes later. Turmeric. Everyone has heard about the good news about turmeric. And that's a very versatile spice that you can use. It gives things a beautiful orange color. You can also make, you may have heard of a turmeric golden milk, good nighttime beverage. You can make it with milk or a milk alternate if you want. There are turmeric supplements available, and they often are mixed with pepper or piperine because that actually helps us absorb the curcumin that's in turmeric, which helps us with anti-inflammatory pathways. So turmeric as a spice is something that you might want to have in your diet, but also perhaps you might want to consider supplementing with it. But always ask your doctor, talk it over with your pharmacist, because they know the other medications that you are on. And there is some evidence around red hot chili peppers, and I'm not talking about the band. It's the capsicum in red hot chili peppers, that they may have an anti-inflammatory role. And then the really good news is that cocoa has some anti-inflammatory compounds. So cocoa is in dark chocolate, maybe a good thing. So I'm really going to grab onto that one. If that's your only goal from today, though, I am going to be disappointed if you only choose adding dark chocolate to your diet. Everybody's talking about the gut lately, and it's super exciting. Whoever knew that we'd all be talking about our intestinal tracts? But it's super, the research that's going on is really interesting in looking at every aspect of our health and our digestive wellness. Unfortunately, the standard American diet or the SAD diet does not support a healthy digestive system. It tends to be really low in fiber. And so it also doesn't feed the gut bacteria. So you guys have all heard, I'm sure, about the friendly bacteria in your digestive tract, which help us eat our food and get it absorbed into our bloodstream, the important nutrients. And it also helps us make hormones and make other vitamins. Very, very important. And And hopefully, you want in your digestive system all of these friendly bacteria, not too much of the bad bacteria, which doesn't help us and tends to be inflammatory. So it's very important to have a healthy gut, and a healthy diet supports a healthy gut, which will be supportive in being anti-inflammatory. So you may be wondering about, has anyone heard of prebiotics before? So the prebiotics are what feeds the friendly bacteria in your gut. And prebiotics are foods, they're high in fibers, and the superstars here are asparagus, bananas, especially if they're a little on the green side, garlic, leek, and whole grains, like barley, brown rice, even popcorn. So you have to keep those bacteria happy. You have to feed them in order for them to be, multiplying and sustaining their environment. And I heard recently that we have about the weight of a brick of this kind of bacteria in our intestinal tract. A brick weighs quite a bit. That's a lot. Isn't that something? It's kind of wonderful we have all these little friends down there helping us. So we have to feed them. Okay, I'm getting the time signal, so we're going to move along. Sugar is one thing that definitely has been shown to have an inflammatory effect. So you might want to look at your diet and see where you are getting processed sugar. Sugar on a label, it's going to be OSE on the end, sucrose, glucose, fructose. Anything with OSE is going to be a sugar. When you look at a label and it says sugar, 4 grams of sugar is equal to 1 teaspoon. If we think about a can of Coke or something, it'll have about 40 grams of sugar. So how many teaspoons of sugar would that be? About 10 teaspoons of sugar in a can. So if you do drink soda pop like regularly, that would be one really big goal to have, to not drink your sugar, not drink your calories. That's definitely going to have an inflammatory effect. So that would be an exciting goal for people. I think it would really make a big difference in your overall health and in arthritic management. So, and supplements. So supplements is a big topic. You always want to talk to your doctor before trying any kind of herbal or fatty acid supplement. There's a lot of research on this, but a lot of it is inconclusive. A lot of times it comes back to that, if it's like a vitamin or mineral supplement, it often comes back to that vitamin or mineral doesn't work as well when it's not combined in a whole food. So there are a few exceptions, like vitamin D. Because we live in this beautiful part of the world, and we all love the snow and the cold and everything. That's why we're here. But we don't get enough of the sun's rays to produce vitamin D. So taking vitamin D is probably something that your doctor has talked to you about, and usually it's about 500 to 1,000 IUs. Some doctors do suggest more. They do find in people with arthritis that they do have lower levels of serum or blood vitamin D. So if you're not doing that now, that's an easy thing, just to supplement with vitamin D. There is some research on selenium, showing that people with rheumatoid arthritis have low levels of selenium, and they come in things like wheat products, like whole wheat products, and in shellfish. So if you're avoiding wheat for any reason and you don't eat shellfish, selenium supplements may be something, but there's always contraindications, so you do need to talk to your doctor about that. And then there's, other supplements, which I'm sure I think there was a pharmacist here talking about supplements. No? Oh, okay. Of course, there are other things that I'm not an expert on. Probably you know more about glucosamine and chondroitin than I do. Okay, so habit changes don't just happen. You have to have a plan. So hopefully by now you have written down 1 or 2 changes that you'll start making today, or I'll give you until tomorrow. You can start tomorrow. So maybe, if it's the meatless meals, having 2 or 3 meatless meals a week, then you do have to plan ahead. You can't just go to the grocery store, try it once, you don't like it, then don't try it ever again. Make a plan. And so a meal plan would be a great idea, and the grocery list with that meal plan. And then, of course, I do think meeting with a dietitian can have a really positive impact on your life. Dietitians are, we are educated and we keep up on the latest nutrition research, and we make an individualized plan with you so that you can make these healthy changes. So you can see dietitians. Perhaps your doctor knows of an outpatient clinic. It is hard to see a dietitian. We're not all over the place, unfortunately. But Superstore and Sobeys do have dietitians. So that might be one of the easiest ways to contact one. And lastly, be kind, gentle, and patient with yourself. Habit change is not easy, but it is worth it. And 20 years ago, I never would have put a picture of myself up there. I can't believe I'm from Antigonish, and when you come from a very conservative town, you'd never put up a picture of yourself, but there it is. That's me and Bella. And do something today that your future self will thank you for. So think about your future self. And then there's some some contact information. If you want to follow me on Facebook, I put up recipes and occasional videos. It's Dietitian Edie. And to book a dietitian at Superstore, it's bookadietitian.ca. Okay, thank you so much for listening.